you ever met someone who seems perfect on the outside? Beautiful, confident, adored by everyone. But when you look closer, you realize something's missing behind their smile? Something cold, something empty. That's Baek Ah-jin, the shining star in Dear Ex, a woman who seems to have it all. Yet inside, she's falling apart. Let's begin by sketching who Baek Ah-jin is. She is a top actress, celebrated in public, glamorous, charismatic. But behind that facade, manipulation, ambition, cold calculation, and a willingness to use others as tools. Reports describe her as having sociopathic tendencies, or at least traits associated with antisocial personality disorder. The narrative frames her rise and her eventual downfall. The drama is about both success and collapse. So we have a dual face: the mask of the perfect star and the inner world of someone broken, using that mask to survive. Trauma and origin. What shaped her? One of the keys to understanding Baek Ah-jin is her background. What we know: she endured parental abuse, neglect, perhaps domestic violence in her past. Her childhood left her emotionally scarred. Her emotional capacity was damaged, and she learned survival strategies early. From her own early life, she learned to hide emotions, to read others, to manipulate, because vulnerability was unsafe. This came from the combination of environment and personality. Psychological lens. When someone grows up in an environment of abuse, neglect, the normal development of empathy, trust, self-worth gets disrupted. Children learn survival strategies: shutting down emotion, becoming hypervigilant around others, using charm or manipulation to avoid harm. These survival strategies can become character traits in adulthood: emotional detachment, mistrust, treating relationships as transactions rather than bonds. In her case, the star image becomes a tool of survival and dominance, a way of staying ahead, staying safe, staying in control. Personality traits and pathology. What do we see in Baek Ah-jin's behavior that align with pathological traits? Let's examine. Lack of genuine empathy and emotional detachment. She can present as charming, kind, generous, but it's a mask. Her warmth is instrumental. She is described as one who can step on others, use them, discard them. Trail of broken people is used in descriptions. Reddit fans note, it was fairly accurate in how ASP personality disorder develops. They aren't born, they are made. Her emotional responses are muted, calculated rather than spontaneous. Her pain is hidden. Her cruelty is deliberate. Manipulation and control. She reads people, knows what they want, and uses it. Her superpower is her ability to read people and manipulate them effortlessly. Her relationships are transactional. Others serve her rise, protect her, pay the price. One man is willing to choose hell to protect her. The mask. She dons the public image of star while privately orchestrating behind the scenes. Impulsivity, risk-taking, thrill of control. Though less explicit, we see hints of risk-taking, jumping to maintain her power, walking on edges, in teasers and commentary. She is not just the calm manipulator. She shows intensity, willingness to pay cost if necessary. Identity and self-worth issues. Beneath the power and facade is a deep emotional void. One article, I focused on emptying her inner self and conveying her emptiness. Her drive for success becomes a compensation for the emptiness inside. Pathological patterns? Exactly whether she meets full diagnostic criteria of a disorder isn't officially stated, but the show uses terms like sociopath in reporting. This allows us to treat her as a complex personality with severe malignant traits, rather than a normal person with quirks. The mask and the facade. Public self versus private self. One of the richest psychological elements of Baek Ah-jin is the duality. Beautiful public star versus tortured private self. The mask is necessary. In abusive childhood, showing vulnerability was dangerous. She learned to cover it. In public, she is perfection. Glamorous, adored, controlled. But the mask is a tool and a prison. She must keep it or risk collapse. When flaws emerge, when the mask cracks, the tension builds, both for the character and the audience. Psychologically, many individuals with trauma build strong public personas, but internally they face emotional numbing, dissociation, and a fear of being exposed. Baek Ah-jin embodies this. Relationships and dynamics. Manipulators versus enablers. The drama sets up relationships that reflect her psychology. One male lead, Yoo-jung, is devoted, willing to suffer for her. The protector, enabler. This dynamic shows how someone with Baek Ah-jin's traits creates relationships of dependence and service rather than mutual support. Another male lead, Kim Jae-oh, shares similar trauma and becomes entangled in her world of control and protection. The core question: is Baek Ah-jin simply the villain, or is she also the victim? The trauma and power dynamic means that her relationships reflect both her manipulation and her need for someone to anchor her. Psychologically, trauma survivors often oscillate between controlling others to avoid being controlled and craving someone who will unconditionally accept them. But that acceptance often comes at unacceptable cost. The drama explores that. What the drama says about agency, morality, and redemption. Baek Ah-jin's story raises difficult questions. Can someone who uses others ever be forgiven? Is her cruelty understandable because of her trauma? Does she deserve redemption, or is she beyond it? Is her ambition a vice or just survival? Psychologically, her case is a reminder that personality and behavior aren't just choice. They're shaped by environment, biology, and history. But mobility, agency, and ethics still matter. The drama appears to lean into the idea of downfall rather than glamorous redemption. One interview says the director focused on her downfall and the challenge of reaching her frozen heart. Key scenes and psychological milestones. Here are a few moments that illustrate her psychology, without major spoilers. A flashback to her childhood, showing abuse and silence. This provides context for her later detachment. A scene where she is physically beaten, yet her expression remains icy. Or she smiles through tears, showing the split between hurt inside and mask outside. Scenes where she congratulates others on the surface while orchestrating their downfall behind the scenes. That duality builds psychological tension. Why this character matters. She challenges typical K-drama tropes of victim becomes hero or villain gets redemption. Baek Ah-jin is far more ambiguous. She lets viewers explore the darker side of ambition, fame, control, and trauma. Takeaways for our audience. Recognize how childhood trauma can shape adult personality. The survival mechanisms become habits. Notice signs of emotional numbing, manipulative behavior, public facade versus private pain. Understand that ambition and success don't guarantee healing. Sometimes they hide deeper wounds. In relationships with people like Baek Ah-jin, in fiction or real life. The enabler versus manipulator dynamic matters. If someone is always carrying someone else's trauma, that's a red flag. Finally, even the top star or perfect image may be covering a shattered inner world. So, when you watch Baek Ah-jin standing on the red carpet, smiling under the lights, remember she's not just the celebrated star. You're also watching a survivor, a strategist, a person whose heart was broken, then built a castle of glass around that pain. And the question the drama leaves us: who pays when that castle cracks? Thank you for joining me today. If you enjoyed this character deep dive, hit subscribe/follow. Share with fellow K-drama fans and psychology lovers.